Welcome back to GH Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the issue that's shaking the very foundations of Port Charles. The drama is peaking, the secrets are bursting at the seams, and everything is about to change. If you've been following General Hospital, you know that when emotions boil over, no one is safe. And in the latest episodes, things have escalated to an entirely new level, especially with Drew, Nina, and Willow caught in a triangle that's turning toxic, tragic, and heartbreakingly human. It all starts with the mounting tension between Drew and Nina. They've been clashing for weeks now, arguing over everything, but at the heart of it all is one thing: Nina's desire to drive a wedge between Drew and Willow. Nina believes, or claims to believe, that Drew isn't trustworthy, not for Willow, not for anyone. But Drew sees through her. He accuses Nina of being jealous, of not wanting him to be with Willow because deep down, Nina still has unresolved feelings for him. And Drew's not wrong. What most people don't know, not Willow, not the public, is that Nina and Drew have a history. A recent history. A secret. Just a few months ago, in moments of vulnerability and confusion, Drew and Nina slept together. Not once, but twice. These encounters weren't just mistakes in passing. They were emotional, intimate, and deeply complicated. And yet, they chose to bury it. They never went public. They never told anyone, especially not Willow, who would be devastated to find out her mother and her boyfriend had been involved. Nina tried to move on. She tried to convince herself that it was a lapse in judgment, something that didn't mean anything. But the more she saw Drew and Willow growing closer, the more those old feelings clawed their way back. Jealousy turned into interference. Concern masked deeper emotions. And in one fragile moment, another night of weakness, pain, and confusion, Nina and Drew slept together again. This time, they both knew it was a mistake. They promised themselves it would be the last time. That it would never happen again. They swore it wasn't love, just a final goodbye to something that should never have started. But fate doesn't always follow the script. Because shortly after that night, Nina finds out she's pregnant. The news hits her like a tidal wave. She's stunned, terrified, and completely unprepared. How could she have let this happen? And more importantly, what does she do now? Staying in Port Charles would mean eventually having to reveal the truth, and that's something Nina cannot do. Not while Willow is still in the dark. Not while her entire world would be destroyed by a revelation like this. So she makes a decision. She disappears. She leaves town, without a word, without an explanation, hoping that by running away, she can protect the people she loves, or at least avoid causing them more pain. But things don't go as planned. When Drew finds out Nina is pregnant with his child, everything changes. He's been in love with Willow. He's been trying to build something real with her, something lasting. But the truth is out now, and there's no way to keep pretending. Drew comes clean. He tells Willow everything about the past, about the nights with Nina, about the pregnancy. It's a devastating blow. Willow feels betrayed not just by Drew, but by her own mother. The people she trusted most kept her in the dark about something that cuts right through her. And now, she has to deal with the fallout alone, confused, and heartbroken. Meanwhile, Drew doesn't waste any time. With Nina gone, he knows he has to find her. He knows she's scared, maybe even lost. But he also knows that their unborn child deserves better. That child deserves a father. A family. And despite everything, Drew decides to step up. He ends things with Willow. Not because he stopped loving her, but because he knows he has a responsibility now. He sets out to find Nina and to be there for the child they never planned for. This choice tears everything apart. Drew sacrifices the life he wanted with Willow to do what he believes is right. Nina, for all her flaws and mistakes, is now carrying his child. And that changes everything. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this isn't just about passion or betrayal. It's about consequences. It's about how secrets always find their way out. It's about how love, when mixed with guilt and fear, can lead people down dangerous paths. Nina's departure sends shockwaves through Port Charles. People start asking questions. Where did she go? Why did she leave so suddenly? Drew tries to cover, but the truth leaks out in fragments. Eventually, more people begin to piece things together, and the judgment comes hard and fast. Friends turn cold. Trust evaporates. The people involved are left to pick up the pieces of relationships they destroyed. And Willow? She's shattered. She didn't just lose Drew, she lost a version of her mother she thought she knew. The betrayal runs deep, and it's going to take a long time before those wounds begin to heal. But the story doesn't end there. Drew eventually tracks Nina down. He finds her in a quiet, remote town, living under the radar, trying to adjust to the reality of her pregnancy. At first, she's defensive. She doesn't want to hear what he has to say. She's scared not just of motherhood, but of what being a mother again means, especially after everything she's lost. But Drew doesn't back down. He tells her he's not there out of guilt. He wants to do this not because he has to, but because he believes their child deserves a real chance. A stable home. A father. A future. Nina, despite herself, begins to let him in. Slowly. Carefully. They begin to navigate this new chapter together, uncertain of what their relationship is, but united by the life they've created. And as they prepare for the baby's arrival, they both realize that nothing in their lives will ever be the same. Back in Port Charles, the ripples of their decisions continue to affect everyone. Willow tries to move on, but the hurt lingers. Carly, Michael, and others react to the scandal in their own ways. The trust in Drew is shaken. The perception of Nina is even worse. But life moves forward, because in General Hospital, it always does. This storyline doesn't just push characters to their limits, it forces them to confront truths they've been avoiding. It tears down facades and exposes what really lies beneath. Drew's transformation from romantic lead to conflicted father-to-be is one of the most significant arcs he's faced. His decisions are driven not just by love, but by responsibility, by a need to do what's right even when it costs him everything. Nina's character is thrown into turmoil, her guilt, her longing, her instability all come crashing down as she's forced to face the consequences of choices she thought were buried. And Willow, once the hopeful heart of this triangle, is left to reconstruct a future from the ashes of betrayal. And the baby? The baby becomes a symbol of new beginnings, of irreversible consequences, of how messy, painful, and deeply human life in Port Charles can be. Next, we will learn about the dramatic developments unfolding in Port Charles, where family loyalties are being tested and parental instincts are driving characters to make life-altering decisions. The emotional turmoil and legal maneuvers we're witnessing will undoubtedly reshape relationships for months to come. Alexis's dilemma, a mother's painful choice. Alexis Davis finds herself in an agonizing position that no mother should ever face. With commitment papers for Christina at her fingertips, she's wrestling with the impossible choice between protecting her daughter from potential prison time or maintaining the fragile trust they've recently rebuilt. The weight of this decision is etched across her face as she contemplates the consequences of either path. During a surprisingly heartwarming evening with both Christina and Molly, Alexis witnessed something she had begun to fear was lost forever: genuine healing in her troubled daughter. The sisters reconnected in ways that brought tears to Alexis's eyes, reminding her of simpler times before trauma and poor choices created such deep divides in their family. "I'm actually doing so much better now," Christina confessed during their gathering, her voice carrying a sincerity that Alexis hadn't heard in months. She credited the combination of therapy, maternal support, and sisterly reconciliation for her improving mental state, a delicate balance that commitment proceedings would certainly shatter. What makes this situation particularly heartbreaking is that Alexis's protective instinct stems from knowledge of Christina's involvement in Rick and Elizabeth's accident. The legal ramifications could be severe if the truth emerges, potentially sending Christina to prison for years. As a former attorney, Alexis understands better than most how the justice system might view her daughter's actions. The commitment papers represent a desperate preventative measure, one that would temporarily restrict Christina's freedom but potentially save her from a much longer separation from her family behind bars. Yet using them would betray the very trust that has allowed Christina to begin healing in the first place. Drew's shocking power play threatens Carly. The tension between Drew Kane and Carly Corinthos has escalated to unprecedented levels following their most recent confrontation. What began as simmering resentment has transformed into calculated legal maneuvering that will send shockwaves through Port Charles's most prominent families. After witnessing Carly nearly strike Willow during their heated exchange, Drew has decided to take matters into his own hands with a bold strategy that crosses numerous boundaries. His protective instincts toward Willow have morphed into something more controlling and potentially dangerous for family dynamics. In a stunning move that left viewers gasping, Drew presented legal documents that would fundamentally alter the guardianship arrangements for multiple children. The paperwork, which he apparently prepared without consulting any of the other parents involved, would establish him as guardian for both Wiley and Amelia should anything happen to Willow. In return, Willow would become Scout's guardian if Drew were incapacitated. The calculated nature of this maneuver reveals a darker side to Drew's character. He referred to Wiley and Amelia as part of their family, a presumptuous claim considering Wiley's biological connections to Michael and the complex family tree that surrounds these children. This possessive language suggests Drew may be viewing these relationships through a distorted lens. Perhaps most troubling was Willow's immediate willingness to sign these documents without consideration for how this would affect Michael's rights or the existing family structure. Her quick agreement indicates either complete trust in Drew's judgment or a worrying eagerness to distance herself from the Corinthos family influence. Willow's identity crisis deepens. Following the near-physical altercation with Carly, Willow has been plunged into a profound identity crisis that echoes through her every decision. The almost slap-triggered deep-seated fears about her own nature and potential similarities to her late twin sister Harmony, whose destructive behaviors cast long shadows over Willow's self-perception. "Am I becoming just like her?" Willow whispered to Drew, her voice trembling with genuine fear. The question wasn't merely rhetorical, it represented a fundamental uncertainty about her core identity that has been brewing since discovering her true parentage. This vulnerability created the perfect opening for Drew to position himself as her protector and confidant. His reassurances that she bears no resemblance to her sister seemed to provide temporary comfort, but they also established a concerning dynamic where Willow increasingly relies on Drew's assessment of her character rather than developing her own self-awareness. Willow's willingness to sign guardianship papers without consulting Michael demonstrates how this identity confusion has compromised her judgment. The impulsive decision suggests she's operating from a place of emotional reactivity rather than thoughtful consideration of all the children's best interests. The parallels between Willow's current behavior and patterns she once criticized in others have become increasingly apparent. Her fear of becoming like her sister may ironically be pushing her towards similarly manipulative tactics, just with different justifications. Carly's inevitable explosive reaction. When Carly discovers Drew's guardianship maneuver, and discover it she will, Port Charles should brace for an emotional earthquake. Her reaction will likely make previous confrontations seem like minor skirmishes by comparison, given what's at stake. Carly's threat to take Wiley from Willow clearly triggered this preemptive strike, but Drew's solution has escalated what might have been resolved through mediation into potential legal warfare. Carly, who has never backed down from a fight involving family, will perceive this not just as an attack on her relationship with her grandson but as a betrayal by someone she once trusted. The legal documents effectively attempt to sever Carly's connection to Wiley in any scenario where Willow is unavailable, a devastating prospect for a grandmother who has already endured numerous family losses. This will likely reactivate Carly's most protective and aggressive instincts, potentially drawing other family members into the conflict. Michael's reaction will be equally crucial, as he finds himself caught between his mother and the mother of his child. Drew's presumption in creating these arrangements without consulting him represents a significant overstep that challenges Michael's parental authority. The congressman's calculated strategy. Drew's background as a businessman and his more recent political ambitions provide context for his strategic approach to family matters. His congressional experience has apparently taught him to identify vulnerabilities and strike preemptively, tactics now bleeding into his personal relationships. The careful preparation of legal documents suggests this wasn't an impulsive reaction but rather a calculated plan possibly conceived well before the confrontation with Carly. This level of premeditation raises questions about Drew's long-term intentions regarding his role in Willow's life and his relationship with the children. By positioning himself as the protector against Carly's supposed threat, Drew has effectively created a narrative that casts him as the hero and Carly as the villain, a simplistic framing of a complex family dynamic that serves his interests while potentially harming the children caught in the middle. The timing of this move, coming as it does during a period of vulnerability for Willow, demonstrates political acumen but questionable ethical judgment. Drew appears to be leveraging emotional turmoil to consolidate his position within this blended family structure. As this drama continues to unfold, viewers will undoubtedly witness the far-reaching consequences of these guardianship documents across multiple relationships in Port Charles. The battle lines being drawn extend far beyond Drew and Carly to impact nearly every major family in town. Stay tuned to ABCGH Spoilers channel for continuing coverage of this developing story and all the latest developments from Port Charles.